Okay, we're looking at number 19. I'm going to work this, and if I have time, I'll put another couple of problems out here just so they're here in case you're struggling with anything. This is the only one that had been asked for right by now. Okay, I've got a fraction. If you look at the big picture here, the big idea here is there's a fraction and it's all raised to the fifth power. So what I know, the exponent rules tell me, is that everything that fifth power has to go with the numerator, so I'm just going to do this as an intermediate step here. I'm going to write the numerator all raised to the fifth power, and then the denominator, and it also gets raised to the fifth power. Again, some of this might be hard to read. I'm doing the best I can with what I have. So you may need to look back at the original problem or look at the step before it if you can't read a number, okay? Now, I'm going to work this by going, okay, I need to simplify the whole numerator first, then I'm going to simplify the whole denominator first, then I'll put stuff together and see what cancels out. Basically, that's our idea that, as far as how we're going to proceed here. Okay, so we have 3 to the, that fifth power goes with everything in parentheses. The 3 gets the fifth power. The k to the fifth gets the fifth power. And hopefully it'll take, but that m to the 8th also gets that fifth power. Sometimes when I get to the edge of the iPad, it doesn't take. Yeah, it did. Okay. I'm just going to work the top, and I'll come back and fill in the bottom. Okay. Now, 3 to the fifth power, I believe that's 243. That should be 81 times 3 should be 243. You can use your calculator to figure out what that number is. That part of it anyway. Sometimes you can't use your calculator for everything, but you can use it for that. Now, on the k's here, it's k to the fifth raised to the fifth power there in the numerator. So it's a power raised to a power, so you multiply. 5 times 5 would be 25. And of course, it's not taking my strokes to 25th. And also, you've got m to the 8th raised to the fifth power. It's a power raised to a power, so you multiply. You write your m down. 8 times 5 is 40, okay? Now, that's as far as I can get that simplified. So I know now there's not much more I can do. I can go back to the denominator and look at it now. So now I'm going to look at the denominator. This fifth power on the outside of that parentheses, since it's glued to the parentheses, it means it goes with everything in the parentheses. It's 2 to the fifth power, and then you got k cubed. That's a 3 raised to the fifth power. You know, you're going to have to listen or look back to see what things should be if you can't read them. Hopefully you're not just copying this down, because that is not the intent of the video. You need to be engaging your mind. And then m to the 7th raised to the fifth power. And again, that's hard to read. I'll try to fix it, but it's just, you know, you only do so much with these tools. All right, if I look at the bottom, 2 to the fifth power, I can punch that in the calculator. You would go 2, and then you'd use that little up arrow on your calculator. It's in the right-hand column. And then you type a 5 in. It would tell you that is 32. Okay. Now, I've got k cubed, but it's raised to the fifth power. So I'm going to multiply my exponents. 3 times 5 is 15. So I write my k down, and I write my 15 down. 3 times 5 is 15. And then on my m's, I'm going to write my m down, but I'm going to say I've got a power raised to a power. So it's m to the 7th raised to the fifth power. 7 times 5 is 35, so I multiply the exponents again. Now, one thing that's good about this problem is everything's all lined up. The numbers are over the numbers, the k's are over the k's, the m's are over the m's. If they had been in a different order, you just want to, you know, just think with the commutative property, it means you can kind of rearrange and put the variables in alphabetical order. So if it had been mixed up here, that's what you would have done. You would have put things in alphabetical order. But now it's time to go divide some stuff out. Let's see. Trying to think what goes into 243 that would go into 32. And the answer is nothing. So there's nothing that goes into both of them. So those numbers are not going to reduce out. Do not write these as a decimal. It's not what you're supposed to do, first of all. So just don't do it. And don't do it on a test or quiz, or I'm going to count the problem wrong from now on. There's a lot of things I've let go up to this point, but it's time to get some things nailed down and to be strict teachers so that you are going to do this right and not go somewhere else sometime, whether it's college or you know another school, and And then we go, why are you doing that? You're not supposed to do that. Do not write this as a decimal. All right. Now, so we took care of these numbers right here. The next part of the problem I've got are the K's. And when you have a fraction, remember, that's the same thing as division. And the rule is if you have a fraction, you can look back on that blue box on page, talked about this in class but could not record it, can't record everything, so I try to pick the most important things. Page 237. When you have this, what you do is you go, okay, I've got K's on the top and the bottom. There are more of them on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the exponent. 25 minus 15 is 10. So it's going to be K to the 10th power. But do I write it on the top or do I write it on the bottom? Well, there were more on the top, so I write it on the top. And what I've done is I've subtracted here. 25 minus 15 is 10. Okay? Now for the m's, if I look at them, there's more m's on the top too, aren't there? So I know my m term is going to go on the top. But what I'm doing, and I'm thinking I'll actually write it down on this, I'm subtracting those exponents. 40 minus 35 is going to be 5, isn't it? I'll just cross it out and write it there. So my final answer is 243 over 32. And I can write it like it is up there, where it's one big long fraction bar, or I could write it like this, K 10. M5. So I could, it's kind of right up there. The answer is actually, you could write it in this form. We wouldn't want to just cross that out and leave a 5 and not rewrite it neatly. But you could have that fraction bar going across the whole thing like that, but it's the same thing as writing it this way. And this is probably the preferred form right here. So aim to write your answers this way. I'm going to do one more quick one. We did one in class. I'll just pick a separate one that's in the 27 to 32 range. I'll do number 31. If you tried putting this in your calculator, it would say overflow area because your calculator is not have enough memory to handle this, and even if it tried to handle it, sometimes it's going to give you the wrong answer because it's such a big number. It decides to put it into scientific notation, and then it starts rounding stuff. So it might not, even if your calculator has more memory, maybe the newer ones have more memory, I don't know. The problem is you've got a chance of getting a wrong answer, and you just never know whether it rounded or not. So you want to not rely on your calculator if you don't have to. Now, so we've got this fraction, but remember we got to look at the numerator first, and then we got to look at the denominator again secondly. So on the numerator, I have a 9, and it's got an exponent on it, but it's raised to another exponent. So we multiply these two exponents here. 54 times 10 is 540. All right, but there's not much I can do with that. That's a huge number. Let's just see what happens on the bottom because I noticed they got the same base. They both have a 9, don't they? And on the bottom, we've got an exponent raised to an exponent. And if you multiply 49 times 11, you actually get 539. Okay? So now, I've got a fraction, and the thing that helps me be able to reduce this is I have the same base here. Both of them are 9s. So I can say, oh, well, the rules say I take that base, and I'm going to subtract the exponents. And there's more on top, so I'll put my answer on top of the fraction. And if I want to think about it this way, I could write all these out and cancel them out. And when I cancel things out, what you end up seeing is you get a 1 on the bottom when all the bottom ones cancel out. And nobody wants to write 540 copies of 9. So we won't go through that exercise, but you'll have a 1 on the bottom because wherever you've moved the terms to, if there's nothing left, just put a 1 on that side of the fraction bar, basically. Well, 540 minus 539 is 1. So it's 9 to the first power over 1. 9 to the first power is 9 over 1, which is just 9. There's an exact answer there that we could get, and your calculator will tell you it can't do the problem. But you can do it because we know exponent rules.